Call to order. We will now have agenda item number 2, the roll call. The trustee alternate Harry Alcott is here. Trustee Hartley McIntosh.
Here.
Trustee Neil Gaynor.
Here.
Trustee Kyle Mays.
Here.
Trustee Jan Price.
Here.
Trustee alternate Sean Apostolo. Please pronounce it. Apostolo.
Here.
Thank you. Trustee David Smith.
Here.
Trustee David Hugh Connett.
Here.
Trustee Bob Lux is here, and Trustee Paul Martin.
Present.
Thank you. Okay, we can begin with the invocation and the pledges of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you as an assembled body. We humbly request that you bless our meeting, our community, and our nation. Please help us to work diligently, always for the common good and in the best interest of those we have been elected to represent. Guide us to be insightful and prudent in our intentions, visions, plans, deliberations, decisions, and their fulfillment. Work through us to provide a spirit of welcome to all in attendance and engage in respectful and thoughtful dialogue and discussion with understanding, wisdom, and humility. Amen. If you wish, prior to reciting the pledges of allegiance, please take an additional moment of silent prayer or additional reflection in the manner of your preference. Thank you. Pledge to the flags. United States.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pledge to the Texas flag.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you very much. Comments from the public. I believe that Mr. Holian is here. Thank you.
Just want to introduce myself real quick. My name is James Mullian. I'm a Congressman Brady's field representative. I just appreciate you all having me and looking forward to hearing about the meeting and learning more myself and for the office about, how water works within our district as a whole. But unless y'all have any questions for me, that's all I got.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Agenda item 4. We have 2 candidates for the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. Just as to set the stage here, these candidates approached the WWA Board of Trustees through me, as well as the Public Education Committee, requesting to provide, offer an opportunity for them for public education regarding the candidates. So this request has been granted. Our allowing this forum is not to imply board support or to either candidate. This board and the Public Education Committee welcomes all of the candidates for this position to approach us and deliver through us to the public their public education comments about their candidacy. As this meeting is being recorded, I request that each of the trustees approach their MUD board president and encourage your board members to review the video of these presentations. Without further ado, did you all flip a coin? Is it going to be John, yours first? Okay. Good evening, John.
For those that don't know me, I'm John Yours. I'm MUD 36 director, second term, serving with Jan. And I'm here tonight to let you know that I'm running for place 7, the Woodlands, in the Lone Star Board. I really don't think that our current director is adequately representing us on all the issues. For instance, last night, the Lone Star Board agreed to the new DFC, which was a 70% drawdown number, which allows them to permit groundwater withdrawal over the next period, which is to 2080, moving it from 66,000 acre feet a year to 97,000 acre feet a year. An acre foot a year is almost 1 million gallons a day, or maybe it's a little bit more than 1 million gallons a day. That's a lot of water. They decided not to put the subsidence metric in their DFC selection. You know, for 3 or 4 years now, I've been going to the Lone Star Board, GMA 14, expressing our concern that somewhere in this whole process, to balance the large volume groundwater users with the residents' need for subsidence, we need to have a voice at the table. I've talked at GMA 14, I've talked a lot at Lone Star, and I've been ignored. And I think now's the time. You know, the DFC has been approved, but it'll take them about a year to write the groundwater rules to implement that DFC. I'd like to be in the room representing you to make sure that there's a subsidence component in that new groundwater management rules that are elected. That's what I'm about. I think subsidence has got to be considered. There's plenty of water when you consider groundwater plus surface water. We just have to manage it so that we can accommodate a growing population. We have to manage it so we can protect the people who are very near flooding because of subsidence. And that's what I'm all about. So I'll let James speak, but I've had a little handout about why we should be interested in the water table under the Woodlands. You may want to look at that.
I failed to mention one thing. The reason that an agenda item was allowed at this meeting was to allow for the board to interact with the 2 candidates, to ask questions. If we did it in public comments, that would not be able to be accomplished. So we might hold questions until the end. And if you do have any questions, Misters Yor and Ridgway can converse it. We can converse at that time. Thank you.
So James Ridgway, born and raised in the area. I actually used to work at the Groundwater Conservation District as the, let me get the title right, Education/Public Awareness Coordinator. Was there 2015 to 18 and got to go around talking to pretty much every kind of stakeholder you can imagine. A lot of elementary schools, Colorado New Lions, Rotary, municipalities. And what I learned in that process is that we all have different values and have different, we're not always going to agree. That's a big part of why you have the different kind of representation that you do on that board, even as an elected board. So again, born and raised in the area. I used to be a journalist at the Courier. I was managing editor at the Villager. So that's actually how I got to the groundwater district, because this subject is so complicated. Nobody wanted to write about it, and they stuck it with me. And so I learned about all the way back to the actual origin of this thing. So I don't know. I just say all that to kind of give a little background. I'm a communications professional today. So as far as my interest in coming to this position, it's a couple things, but I really believe that so much of this has devolved because of one side not wanting to come to the table, or this side getting mad and taking their toys home. And I really think that you got to just stay at the table and try to hammer something out and make it work. And the results of not doing so is we're seeing increase in water prices for attorneys. And if there's any attorneys in here, I'm sorry, but I find it darkly ironic that, you know, if you're a citizen of Conroe, you know, you got fees that are paying an attorney to sue or to defend. And if, you know, if you're paying SJRA as a GRP member, you're paying their side to, and I just always have this vision of the attorneys just kind of winking at each other as 6 years goes by. So anyway, that's a little about me. What's most important about, as far as me talking to y'all, is I'm not gonna, you know, get you to all proselytize on my behalf or anything, but even if you don't like me and what I represent, if I do win, I want to stay in contact with the various stakeholders in my precinct that I can make sure I understand what they want. So, other than that, as I say, in closing, I do have a bit of a hostile relationship with the current board. They've threatened civil and criminal litigation against me in the past. So if you look me up, I wear it as a badge of honor. I have over 300 pages of open records requests that I've gathered over 2 years. And in one of those, they thought they had censored or redacted with those black bars, but it was electronic. I think it was, I could read it. So that created a whole thing. But I share that just because that's how important. I didn't budge. I didn't back down. And it's just still kind of lingering out there, the threat. But that probably more than anything is why I wanted to run for the position, because it made me so angry that a government agency would threaten. They went to the district attorney, and so did I. And as a journalist, I knew my rights. So anyway, that to me is just, you can talk, John is the yin to my yang. He can be the intellectual. He can say all the numbers. I'm about the transparency. I'm about not having hours and hours of executive session. And if I get on that board, and he gets on that board, and we just keep getting outvoted, I will make sure that whatever is going on in executive session, I'm just a blabbermouth, and I'll make it super uncomfortable for them to try to do government behind closed doors.
Thank you.
When is the
We now
election?
can,
November the 8th.
And how many positions are open and how many people are running for these positions?
Two positions are open,
Both in your area.
both in your area. Place 7 for the Woodlands, place 3 for precinct 3. There is another election, I believe, to
Two other are uncontested.
uncontested. There's only 2 of us. James and I are running against somebody.
and to refresh my bad memory, weren't you a mud director also?
I did spend, I'm trying not to brag about it. I spent 4 years on the Rayford Road mud. I don't know why I'm the bull in the china shop, but I didn't get along with them either. And they also threatened to sue me. True story. But it's.
I'm sorry I brought it up.
No, I in meetings recorded because I was driving an hour and a half, like energy corridor, and I would be more involved, except I couldn't be at the meetings. They would have recorded them. So with my bull in the china shop mentality, like I frustrated them so much that they started doing it because they got tired of me posting my own recordings. So, I mean, I think I'm the perfect guy for the job if I'm gonna be outnumbered. So
So, you said you're precinct 3, what is that? If,
Rayford Road corridor, most of the Woodlands.
No action.
Yeah.
and we have 2 reps, and Yost is, you're in the same district,
No, I would represent the Woodlands. So everybody in the Woodlands can vote for me.
Yeah.
Precinct, yeah.
And most of the Woodlands would be in my precinct.
so you have overlapping precincts.
Yeah. It's a funny thing, the way they did it, you just live on my side of the tracks. You've got your at-large and you've got your precinct, right? But Woodlands and Conroe get that extra seat, so might as well flex, get that influence. Well, I'm glad that
What do the other candidates look like that on the non-contested seats?
it's Janice.
It's a lady from Magnolia that's in precinct 2. And one other.
John Boucher
John
is,
Boucher's a special.
John Boucher.
There was a little bit of musical chairs, right? Because this one lived in precinct 3 and then moved to Conroe, and I think, one was here, and then, so that can be a little confusing because they've just rearranged.
Boucher took Harry Hardman's place when he became mayor. So that, but for some reason, he filled in, he is in an uncompleted term. Harry, but for some reason, they put him up as a special election this time. They haven't done that before.
Did you bring push cards?
I haven't any push cards, no. I have some cards with my name on it.
We're
Well,
raising
that-
money though, and we're gonna get them. So if you know anyone that wants to.
See,
That's a little push card. How's that?
thank you. Appreciate it.
pass those around.
And some of y'all may recall 4 years ago, over 200,000 went into this election. Largely from a private water utility, so it's an uphill battle. But hey, if you're super into private water utilities, then you know, you've got great importance in there.
Excellent. Anything else, anybody? Any questions?
Lone Star has already adopted the rule as law for the geographic determination of special management areas. So they can control as needed.
They changed their policy to allow them to create special management districts.
Right.
They did not have that before.
Could you enlighten us what the implications could be should a special management area be declared?
My view would be that, say, the Woodlands keeps complaining about subsidence. They could create the Woodlands as a special management district. Then they could lower our groundwater pumping rates for everybody, not just the SCRA wells that are here, but the golf courses and everybody else. I don't remember what the ratio is of groundwater pumped in the Woodlands, the SCRA versus everybody else, but I think it's about half and half. So what they could do is restrict everybody to satisfy a subsidence issue.
But at the same time, you're saying they have not utilized a subsidence metric in their DFC, so.
But that doesn't say they couldn't.
Okay.
So by having the allowance to do a special district provides them to do whatever they want. And they could punish us if they wanted by restricting our groundwater pumping, pushing us more to surface water.
Okay. And James, precinct 3 extends out into part of Peace County, am I correct?
The Grand Parkway development is going on.
Yeah,
By golf course.
I have visited some mud directors in that area. It's part of another half out there. And they have expressed some concerns similar to the job. Relation to pumping, number pumping, potential for exacerbating flood, particularly the Melvin type events.
It may not be a popular opinion, but it's one of those issues that, like climate change, you know, people have a hard position over here and one people have a hard position over here, and they just can't seem to, both sides seem to say the other one's foolish. I really believe in actual conservative values, so since I don't know, I think it's probably best to find something in the middle. So that you will know that you're not going to mess anything up. That's kind of how I look at it. And I'm just trying to be honest and saying I'm not a hydrologist. I don't know all the answers. I'll listen to the data, but I probably make more prudent policy decisions that kind of pull back a little bit, but not all the way back, because you could argue that's part of the reason we're here, is because things might have been too conservative and that created a whiplash effect. So I'm really about trying to find answers somewhere in the middle that we can maybe all get behind. We might not all like every detail of it, but maybe we'll all get a little something out of it.
So in that case, would you be supportive of extending the either extensometers?
Oh, I want a lot of it.
The or the panel.
Neil, there's only been one subsidence measuring device added to Montgomery County since 2015. That was 2021 when I worked with James and Mike Turco.
Yeah.
And
Yours course.
in the Yours course site down in Lower Village Point, which has been working since last fall. And it's on the Harris Galveston website. If you scroll down a little bit, click on the map and you'll see that. So Lone Star's been talking about subsidence meters. Park did a study and told them where to put it.
Nothing.
I mean, I'd like to pop them down at where we see epicenters of developmental growth. I mean, if you look at the Woodlands, I was here when the mall came up, and that was a big deal in fifth grade, by the way. And, you know, you could kind of put a pin down and see the growth. Well, that's happening over on that side.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
you could, if you got that, I'm not saying it'd be great data, next year, but for those having this conversation 10, 15 years from now, it sure would be nice to
That is.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. We got a full agenda. And I hope that we can do this again or meet at other forums, but thank you so much. Okay. No apologies required. But we do have a full agenda.
That was good.
We are now on to the consent agenda, which is shown on pages 1 through 14. If there are, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second, and that was you, Paul? Thank you. Okay, is there discussion regarding these questions? Yes, sir.
One add, I think, on the public comment part of the minutes. Mr. Ellen had thanked the board and asked about the protocol for area ditches. He also asked about an interest in an integrated flood planning. To attach, go after the flooding issues in an integrated mud way. That didn't make the minutes. I think it's an important add.
Good point. Thank you. Thank you.
As amended.
Second as amended.
Thank you. All in favor of the approval of the amended documents, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain?
Saying I wasn't here.
Very good. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay. We are now on agenda item 7. Consider an act on the Woodlands Water fiscal year 2023 operating budget and capital budgets. The Finance Committee has met and has received and supports the proposed budgets. So therefore, as you pointed out to me before, that does not require a second. And
They must make a motion. The committee must make the
we'll
motion.
get to a discussion. Yes, sir. So the committee makes a motion to approve the budgets as submitted. And
as a member of the Audit and Finance Committee, I'll make that motion.
very good. Thank you. And
Does not require a second.
there you go. Thank you, Hartley. And that will now lead us to discussion. And Jim, would you please begin the discussion by stating and Maureen's support of the budget and the various components?
Yes, last month we presented what we call our draft budget, asking for you to look it over, provide comments, questions back to our staff, which would be routed through the committee. We didn't have, that I recall, a whole bunch of questions on this budget. I will say it's important to remember this, a large component of this budget is built around outside services and expenses that the MUDs incur regarding sewer repair, water system repair, a whole host of issues that the MUDs tasks that they do are rolled into this budget. So as we go through and work with the MUDs, refining their budgets, this budget can be tweaked as well and will reflect some changes. I just will say tonight, I'll just make some general statements and we can answer questions that David may have or others. We've got projected revenue of about $10.3 million, projected expenses of about 10.1. A large component of this budget is in the admin, the increases in the admin fee. There were some factors in the employee expenses that created this kind of one-off need to raise that category in the admin fee. We've had some increases in software maintenance that have played a big factor in the need to increase that. And just, I guess, to recap, we've got money targeted in this budget to bring in a management replacement for my position in the first quarter of 2023. The goal is to have that person on staff working with me and our staff well in advance of my target retirement date, which is December of next year. Now, I would also like to point out, as we go through the MUD budgets next week, there may be some minor tweaks in some of their activities that can adjust this budget also. So at the end of the MUD meetings, we'll produce a budget that will be, I guess, the final for everyone to look at. But overall, the changes at this point should not be substantial. One of the adjustments that we have made since last month when the draft budget was presented is in fees that we charge residents for credit card payments, online payments. We have been absorbing, I think it's about an 85 cent fee per transaction for a number of years. Based on the Finance and Audit Committee's recommendation, we have budgeted or factored into this budget, charging the customer 50 cents for online and credit card payments. We're seeing that trend is kind of common in the business world today, to have the customer contribute or pick up part of that electronic expense. So this budget has factored in a 50-cent expense to the customer for credit card and online transactions.
Is that same with bank drafts as well, or bank drafts free?
Just payments on the website. So e-checks and credit cards.
So that'll show up as a line item charge when they go do that, they'll say that right at that point in time, yeah.
Yes. We don't collect it, we don't get reimbursed. Quarterly.
So with those opening remarks, David or any others, we'll be happy to answer your question.
What percent of water customers do the online payment versus say maybe other methods?
The vast majority of customers who pay electronically pay on the website. We have a very large.
I mean, that's how I pay on the website. That's how most of my friends and families in my generation pay everything.
We still have some customers that have signed up for auto draft with us, and we change that, move them to the website so they can manage their own auto pay.
Sure.
As their credit cards expire, we start slowly transferring them over. We have ACH receiver payments. We have a phone payment system, but those are a minority.
Yeah. Makes sense.
What's the percentage of payment on that portal that you just mentioned?
Well, out of the over
Approximately.
3/4 of electronic payments.
So about 75%.
Yeah, it could be that high, yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's significant. Thank you. David, you had some questions?
I'm getting used to the budget, so I'm a newbie here. I noticed in line 8920, it says sewer maintenance, and that goes from 1 million to 2.7. Is that driven by a mud, or is that?
Sewer maintenance or sewer repair?
It's on the budget, it's line 8920. It says sewer repairs.
Sewer repair, yeah, that's a MUD specific. Several MUDs are having higher expenses in analyzing the sewer system. If you may recall, we've had numerous discussions with SDRA to try to minimize what we call inflow and infiltration into the retail system. When we have heavy rains, we're seeing a big spike in water that comes through the treatment plant. So we're trying to get out into the collection system, identify failures in the system, areas where rainfall primarily can get into it and create that spike. So that is MUD specific. I think MUD 6, it's 2 or 3 that have a substantial increase in that. What we call the leaky basins. We're hitting the areas that we know we have problems with.
And then you mentioned software. It's like a big increase in software. Is that new packages, fees are going up, licensing fees?
We have both. We've added some cybersecurity tools and those costs always increase. Annual maintenance fees for their software, their billing software, financial, they've gone up as well.
We also had a comment that the SRA stopped with chlorine testing. And we picked that up.
That is bacteriological testing.
Okay.
Yes, they used to perform that service as a courtesy, I guess, to the MUDs. And several years ago, we transitioned away from their staff doing it. We hired a local lab in the Woodlands, actually, British labs. We put in some sampling stations and we're doing.
But when you look at another expense line that's labeled taps, the expenses are a level. So if we're having no taps, why did the expense level go?
I think we're budgeted inspection fees
Find it.
and the MUDs. So the Woodlands water, we get the revenue from that. So inspections, yeah, we just budgeted inspections and connection fees because we do pool inspections every year.
And the trick
Irrigation
is,
system.
we know there will be some tap. We don't have hard data as to where they're going to occur. For years, we had input from primarily the Woodlands Development Company. They knew where they were going to be building and we could forecast. But because the current environment getting close to build act, we just don't have good data where those are going to occur, but we know they will. And then you can look back historically. In the last few years, we've underestimated the number, but we just don't have enough information to code that to a specific.
And this is just a comment. I'm new at this, but you know, there's a function within Excel. Instead of giving us a PDF, you can give us a live Excel file with the cells locked, but the formula is visible. And that to me would be more helpful than a PDF. Because that way I can, instead of having to retype everything, I can put the things into a spreadsheet and manipulate it as I need that. And then the other thing I think I've mentioned already is that we need to get better at dating revision numbers. Because I print these things out and I look at them and I have 4 revisions, but none of them dated. So then I get confused about what's the latest revision.
We will make sure we get that.
That would be
At
helpful.
the top of the page is
date,
live date.
timestamp.
Yeah, I'm going by a mix between this and
Things.
monthlies and weeklies in my life. And then also maybe a set of assumptions. And I'll give you an example that kind of hung me up was that, I look on, obviously the appraised value in your mud is an important number. It's an important number. So it's nowhere on the sheets. So I find the 31 July tax report. I didn't have the appraised number on. And I said, oh, there we go. I got the appraised number finally. And I start running numbers and it turns out that that's not the most current number. And so I called Baird and called Jan and say, Jan, the numbers are off. I can't replicate them. And so if we just have we have a block down here or something, there's probably some standard assumptions that if you start, pushing data around, that you can not, like I said, I thought I had it. Matter of fact, I learned one thing by doing this. When I pull a piece of data off, I put where I got it from. Just so I can, replicate the work. And I couldn't remember where I got that $3.5 billion from, and it turned out on the tax report. But that'd be helpful in the future.
We are happy to
Yeah,
take those
yeah,
suggestions
yeah.
and try to build it into the operation.
Hey, Jim.
Question.
Go ahead.
Water distribution. Thing, there's following up what Dave was talking about. None of the discussion here relates to testing for EPA regulated substances. In the broader umbrella question around water quality.
Regulated or unregulated?
Regulated, not regulated. So things like copper and lead and all that good stuff. Is that included or is that?
Yes, that is included
Okay.
in the water distribution maintenance. Yeah.
Okay, because it's specified bacteriological chlorine. I just wanted to make sure that was
11 coppers in there.
And is there also a SJRA doing any of their own work separately from y'all?
And what regard?
Well, the wholesale water system. I know,
Testing?
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
and this is all shared. I'm good.
I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure. So we're going to talk about a vacation policy change, which could, involve more cash versus time off.
Yep.
Does the budget have any kind of accommodation? I mean, you're probably going to spend more cash potentially. I think that was kind of the message last time, right? Are you just assuming that salary is salary and there is no vacation buyout yet on here?
No.
Or are you worried about that at all?
The salary budget has a component in there for that, selling vacation. Yes.
There's some, okay,
There's an estimate built in.
That's right.
okay. Thanks.
So Maureen, just to follow up on that question, what's your estimate of the financial impact, the expense impact to this change in proposed budget that's?
I don't foresee it exceeding the budget number. It has not so far, so.
Additional questions?
I have a question about total other income. Pretty small number in comparison, but proposed income to go so down so far.
This current year we budgeted and the prior year, the grass recycling from the AMI meter replacement project. So we collected quite a bit for grass prices went up, so we exceeded budget, I think. It's per year.
And we don't have it in this year's budget because we don't have any work to recycle as we finish the project. Additional discussion? Receive a motion to approve the budget as submitted.
So moved.
Second.
Second, motion by trustee Martin, second by trustee Mays. And all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Okay. Agenda item 8. Receive regular monthly SJRA Woodlands Division report, including update on wastewater strategic plan, which is shown on page 32 and onward, and update on infrastructure funding, page 29 of our meeting packet. Good evening.
Report our monthly information is in your packet. One thing to report is as of September 1st, as approved by the board, we did go to a 50/50 plan with surface water, groundwater. That's all I have. Unless you have questions for me, I'll turn it over to Dan.
Monumental step. Thank you. Good evening.
Everybody,
Good
quick
evening, Mr.
update on
Hildebrand.
strategic plan. In your packet, like Bob mentioned, page 32 is our August 24th progress meeting summary. Really the highlights there was going through some of the continued discussion on the planning for the upcoming stakeholder meetings and pulling together all this data into the actual costs and be able to compare the current alternatives. I'll answer any questions you have on the minutes. Two other things I wanted to point out is the next stakeholder meeting is September 28th. That is an added additional stakeholder meeting to the original ones. Our plan for an agenda there is to discuss the assumptions going into the cost estimating, all the inputs and variables, revisit the goals of this phase of the study, and really present the approach to how we're going to compare these alternatives and the cost between them and get some initial input from the stakeholder group before November 2nd stakeholder meeting, which is where we're going to go through and actually have all the numbers and scores for the various alternatives. One other topic for the agenda, the next September 28th stakeholder meeting is we're going to do a short little presentation on the MBR or membrane bioreactor technology. So that's something that there is two alternatives that utilize that treatment technology. So we want to give the stakeholder group a little deeper dive into that, pros, cons, and kind of long-term potential benefits of going to that technology. So a little bit more technical detail on that. Any questions on wastewater strategic plan?
I'm a little confused. What's on page 36? Next progress meeting is October 7th. And this other one on the 28th has a different agenda?
So the next progress meeting is October. Let's say October 7th. I believe that's correct. That is just the internal progress meeting
Okay.
where we will be working with our consultant.
Freeze and Nichols.
Freeze and Nichols to prepare. Well, actually, we have another. Not right. Because we have another progress meeting before the September 28th meeting we had. So there is an October 7th progress meeting, but there is another one we have here in September that we added to discuss and prepare for the September 28th meeting that we added. That makes sense.
Busy.
Yeah, we've added a few additional meetings. Any other questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hildebrand. Yes, sir.
Question
Trustee
on
Martin.
page 19, I'm not sure who this should be addressed to, but I guess it's the operating data. And when you look under treatment plant number 2, on the E. coli permitted at 200, and while 27 is still a far cry from 200, typically we see numbers like 3.8. Is there a reason that it spiked during this particular month?
I can look back at the data. Sometimes excessive rainfall will cause a slight elevation. As the chlorine demand comes down a little bit, or the rainfall will come through, we'll see a slight elevation in E. coli at some point.
Tried to go back and compare it to last year, thinking that, were those comparable rainfalls? But I don't have that ability to do that.
Yes, sir. For wastewater treatment plant 2, historically, we do see that. When you have high rainfall, we'll see a slight elevation in E. coli. That area has always had that quirk with the area.
What do you do when you see data like that? You just continue on, or do you?
Well, the bad part about E. coli is 24 hours after the fact. So we get that data, we don't get real time data on that. As long as our chlorine residuals are within range, and usually it's held below the maximums.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, do you have anything to add? Any topic?
On the infrastructure funding, we're still waiting to hear that Congressman Crenshaw's earmark has been funded. We know it's been approved, but we're waiting to hear funding. We've heard in our conference call Monday with our political consultant is they think towards the end of this year, the calendar year, before any action by Congress on that appropriation. But also we built into the schedule that if it doesn't occur until later in the year, it's not going to affect the project.
You're speaking specifically of Bear Branch?
This Bear Branch Dam, where Congressman Crenshaw has allocated 3.5 million towards that project.
If it comes late, we'd still get it, just.
Right. And if it comes after when we start the project, we're working with financial advisor to develop a kind of a short-term and long-term financing options so that if it doesn't come until after we start, we still have a way to cover the project. Other question? Yes.
A while back, you mentioned about tours for the dam and the wastewater treatment plants. I would have to get done the budgets another week or so. I'd be looking forward to that.
Summer, we'll get back in touch with you and
Yeah, I'd like to.
that'd be great.
No, that's cooler. That's fun.
Packet next week. I confirm the date.
In the
In the mud packet, your individual mud packet will be a flyer with the dates and times.
Hope y'all can attend.
Okay.
No,
Spring Creek, agenda item 9, receive updates. Yes.
Don't mind. On page 18, an 18 and a 19, on 18, under budgeted percentage, it says 65 and 35, but I thought we were moving to 50-50.
That was for last month.
So that,
Yes, sir. As of September 1, we switched everything to a 50/50 plan moving forward. That's clear.
And just to clarify, the 50/50 is an annual goal. Month to month, it can vary substantially. But at the end of the year, we want to look back and say it was a 50/50 blend over the years.
okay. On 19, this doesn't affect most people in the room, but on plant 3, that just happens to be about a quarter mile from my house. The chlorine levels are pretty high. What would cause something like that?
Well, for plan number 3, since it's below 1 million gallons of flow, the range is no less than 1.0 and no more than 4.0 milligrams per liter. So as long as you're within that range of 1 and 4,
Okay.
that's the permitted values.
Is it usually more towards the ceiling than the floor? Because
It fluctuates throughout the day with the flow. As flow drops, you'll see an uptick in chlorine residual just because of the demand and detention time. As flows come up, you'll see it start to level off. The target's to maintain a 2, but you do have the spikes in the levels.
Okay.
are you smelling it at your house?
Now, this is
Well,
wastewater.
I understand, but I just
No,
want to make certain
no, I mean, well,
chlorine wasn't getting beyond the fence.
yeah. I would say in full transparency, at minimum usage, I would assume that's when I'm probably at work, so I probably have to ask my wife and my children. But I haven't heard any
Because
complaints.
chlorine leaks pretty serious.
Yeah, yes, certainly.
With plan 3, if you walk by, you may smell like swimming pool.
Right.
Strong swimming pool smell. And that's, as long as it's in solution, you're okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely concerning. I've done my own pool cleaning and gotten a whip out of the bucket before, and it'll certainly knock you back.
It'll knock you back.
So I've chosen to leave that to the expert, so I was just a little concerned.
And of course, at the facility, we have chlorine alarms, we have sensors.
Right.
So if there is a gas release, we know about it on that. We know about it, we get on top of it.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Agenda number 9, receive updates from SJRA led Spring Creek detention study. Mr. Hildebrand back again. Thank you.
Not too much on this item, other than we have a progress meeting / stakeholder meeting this coming Tuesday, September 20th. And that is where we're going through what we've talked about, a decision matrix, various different alternatives on path forward for the project. Talk about those with funding partners and stakeholders, and lay that out to get some better direction and input on where we take the study. So hopefully next month there is more to be updated.
Great.
But when if you go back when I first got here, they had the big flood. At least one of you guys for flood. But you really don't have a revenue stream to fix all that stuff, do you? You have you have the water, you have the dam water, but you really don't have a flood mitigation revenue stream to do all this work.
That is correct.
Everybody.
That's one of the big questions is, who's gonna take the lead and champion the project, to move forward and so on. Where will future funding come from?
What have other communities done in similar situations?
Well, like in the case of Harris County, they have a flood control district that's countywide and they have a separate tax, have a long tax. And Jace, our general manager, has said, we don't have the authorization to impose a tax. Now, somebody might come back and say, well, it's in your enabling legislation, but we would have to go to voters to get that authorized. There's,
Unless you become an elected board,
even still,
we
would still have to go to the
I
voters.
thought you'd have taxing authority at least.
No.
No.
That would certainly be a hot topic.
Extremely.
Hmm.
But it also prevent people from getting flooded. Or
One of the-
maybe help.
I would tell you that from the conversations I've had with various county commissioners over the years, they tried a voter authorization on a drainage, countywide drainage district or flood control district back in the eighties, sort of mid-eighties, and failed miserably. Of course, the population wasn't as great back then as it is now.
Right.
But the population concentration is in the center of the county and in the southern part of the county. So there's a lot of area that's not impacted by flooding. And so area is concerned by the elected officials in the county that everybody would be taxed, but the people in the highly populated areas would be the beneficiaries. And they think it ought to be more uniform. That's been one of the concerns.
I mentioned this when I was at the board meeting, that we was on, I was at the board probably a month ago. And at that meeting, Commissioner Riley received approval to redo the drainage handbook. And you got $300,000 to do that. I looked at the drainage handbook, it's beyond my professional ability to interpret that. But if we have a desire, we should find a way to contact Commissioner Riley and get him to participate. Rewrite. But he got $300,000 last month to fund it, so he's gonna be hiring consultants. And
Andrew, so that would be revised for all of the county, not just his precinct.
Right.
Okay.
Employees have resigned in 30 years. They're doing it because there's too much growth.
And so once those changes are made, it would only affect new development, not existing. And Harris County has fought that same issue with changing their rules. If I may, David, you asked about tours. Tour dates, October 6th. This is for the surface water plant. And we would meet there on Pine Valley at the administration building. And then October 20th, this would be the wastewater treatment plant 1 tour, the one that's on Sawdust. That's at 9 a.m. And we would meet there at the administration building on Sawdust.
On the 6th, what time?
9:30 a.m.
9:30.
And then we will need to schedule a time for Bear Branch Dam.
What was the 6th tour? Sorry.
Sorry.
The 6th is touring what?
It's the surface water plant.
Oh, GRP, okay.
Yeah.
Good, good.
It's a great tour.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to agenda item number 10, the attorney's report. Brian Yates, please.
Yes, sir. One item to bring for this evening. Jim's asked me to take a look at our policy, RNS 60 regarding customer defaults. We've got language in there regarding notification procedures to customers that are in default. We disconnect them for water service. It requires notice to be provided by certified mail or in person. I think we generally do in-person notifications. We're looking see if there's another way to do that. Some PBC rules we've looked at so far, it needs to be by mail or in person, which certain case law as well, but that's something that we're looking at as far as a potential change, if it would be allowed by law. I think the cost is going up for the notifications in person. That's all I have at this point. Have to answer questions if you have.
How long do you think that'll take to research and come back with it? Okay, very good. Thank you. Anything else, Brian?
That's all I got.
Thank you, sir. General manager's report.
Compliment email towards the end of the packet. I always like to point those out. And then the other thing I want to report is I've had a couple of phone calls and a Zoom meeting with University of Houston professor and a Woodlands resident in the geoscience arena. And U of H, well, there's technology there. I call it satellite technology regarding measuring subsidence. And Neil probably is very familiar with that. Well, they are considering offering us maybe a graduate student or some sort of a study that would be maybe an affordable cost where we could look into in some detail at subsidence around the Woodlands in Montgomery County. So I've asked for kind of a PowerPoint presentation that I can show this board when I get that and see if it's a topic we want to look at and see if we have an interest in it. If the data helps us understand more about groundwater withdrawal and subsidence. I know it's not part of our mission or vision, but community partnerships are, and this might be a community partnership with U of H and Park and some others just to get some good data.
Who did you come in contact with? I'm on the Petroleum Engineering Advisory Board of the U of H. And I just met with them last night, that same group. They had a geophysicist in there, reservoir engineering groups, and it's amazing with the technology.
The technology was mind-boggling what they've looked at Texas, from South Texas up to the College Station area and seen and identified what they call hotspots. And I'm drawing a blank. It's one of the, I'll email it.
Yeah, send it to me. I'll follow up and kind of a push on that side, maybe if this is something we think it makes sense. And
well, again,
if we find it wobbles a bit, we
could. A community partnership to look into this, I think is worth looking into.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. That's it, Jim?
Yes.
Very good, sir. Agenda item 12, receive staff or ad hoc committee updates on the following. Audit and Finance Committee. Ron Wilson isn't here. Paul, would you be happy, or would you deliver that report, or Jim, whichever you prefer?
Just as Jim mentioned, the Audit and Finance Committee did meet, and we upgraded yet the 5th version. Somebody mentioned that we need to keep better track of those things, but it is the 5th version, and as Maureen indicated, there might be even a final one after that, after the MUDs meet. One thing that was not discussed at our meeting, but inside conversation it has come up, and that is we signed a 5-year historically audit agreement. And I believe our current contract
ends at year to year beginning next year. I think.
Well, another single year.
So let me make sure. So the audit that will be performed for the August 31st, or September 30th. Which is at the end of the 5-year contract?
The end was a year ago, and we did a single year engagement, and they're going to do another single year. Unless we would like.
And is the pricing on those single year engagements comparable?
A little higher. Couple $100 each month.
That's all I have to report.
Very good. The Public Education Committee did meet. We had a very productive meeting about moving forward, and getting content out is the driver at this time. We're moving into a phase 2. We have 2 new members from this board on the Public Education Committee, and they are Trustees Gaynor and Trustees Conant. And so there are 4 of us from this board as on the Public Education Committee. Aside from that, I resigned as chairman due to, we're kind of moving into phase 2 of this, as to getting the committee properly populated with the correct people, skill sets and so forth. And now it's more into the implementation and analytical side of it. And Neil Gaynor has been elected as chairman of this subcommittee. So he is our new committee chairman. I will stay on the committee, but not as the chairman. That's the end of my report. Questions on either the topic? Hearing none, we'll move to agenda item 13. Discuss and act upon the changes to the WWA vacation policy that would be effective October 2022, and that is on page 39 of our packets. That's wrong. That is on, where is it?
39.
Yeah, that's, I'm lost.
I showed on 39 and 40 in my fact.
It's right at the end of the JRA.
Probably gonna be close. And while you're looking for it, I'll make a couple of opening remarks. This is being driven by, we have a small staff here. We're, I think, very efficient. But many of our employees have been with us for 10+ years and are earning 3 to 4 weeks vacation. And during the COVID, many employees didn't take vacation. And, there wasn't anywhere to go, and it kind of created a situation where we realized that there's some benefit, operational benefit, having employees not take a full 3 weeks or 4 weeks. That if they only wanted to take a couple of weeks a year, then that helps us. And so we wanted to modify our vacation policy that would allow employees that chose to not take their full allocated vacation to sell some and stay on the job. And we think there's a benefit to that, operational benefit. And we've reviewed it with our personnel committee and requesting that you would support and approve this modified vacation.
Had it, but it is gone.
What's the recommendation of the personnel committee?
Personnel committee reviewed that last month and we support the general manager's recommendation and
Do
agree
you
with it.
make a motion to approve the?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion has been made by the committee, doesn't need a second discussion.
I have a couple questions, maybe some comments. I noticed that, I guess part of the core policy, that vacation time can be taken in hourly increments. Half day and full day. Is that struck me, the hourly thing. I get half days and full days. I've never seen it hourly.
Some of the hourly employees, we do have allowed that to be taken.
Because they're on hourly, okay,
That's right.
okay, they're exempt, okay, I get that. And then on the rollover, 160 hours may be rolled over into the new calendar, that's in red now. And I'm trying to compare that, because you're inserting this new paragraph, essentially, that's how you're modifying the policy, right?
Essentially, there may be more than just, essentially, you're right. The red is the driving change, primary change.
And so the red now includes the 160 hours max of rollover. What is the policy now for rollover?
Actually, the policy was, if you didn't use it, essentially you lost it. And we have not practiced that, just simply because didn't have the heart to tell folks. So they could roll up. They've been rolling over. We have a couple of people with in excess of 200 hours.
Yeah. Is that kind of your max, your high watermark?
In the high end.
Yeah, because we had a big problem with this in my past, and people were, I think, having retirement plans built around vacation, right? Which is not good. And one of the things that really got to the heart of it, stopped this happening, is after you hit that max of 160 hours, you stopped accruing vacation. Right, which meant that was the policy, right? So if you're going to sit there with 4 weeks sitting on the benchmark at the end, until you work that off, you didn't actually accrue any new vacation. And everyone got right as rain when that happened, right? So I'm not going to.
Yeah, use it or lose it.
Well, it was, yeah.
That's what it is.
And it wasn't just a cliff thing. I mean, if you got under it, then you kept accruing and you could whittle away at it. But it wasn't just a one-day event. So I like the idea of where you're going with it. I mean, I think that makes sense. I'm all for having flexibility, especially with crazy schedules people have. I was curious about the hourly. I think you answered that on the hourly side. And just think about how you're going to manage the cash side of it, because people will take advantage of this, I think, and I think you've answered that question earlier in the budget, so.
Yes.
Great. Receive a motion regarding this matter.
We had you had the motion.
Okay, and then I guess we'll call a vote. All in favor signify by saying aye in support of the motion. Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Okay. On page 41, agenda item 14, discuss notice from Montgomery County Appraisal District regarding vacant board position.
We have received notice that one of the board members on the appraisal review board has resigned, I think maybe moved out of the area. So there's an opening. And the protocol for replacing that person is the taxing entities, which are all of our MUDs are part of that group, and put forth a name that will be considered by the current board in replacing that vacant position. So it will be on the MUD agendas next week for you to consider this. And if you've got somebody that you think might be interested, be thinking about that. The deadline is fairly short. I think we got to get it to them by October 10th. So we would need to take that action next week at the MUD meetings and get that person's name to the not the review board, but the MCAT.
So this isn't like the normal voting.
That's correct.
It's not weighted, it's just a replace.
You just, if you have a name you put forth now, and then they consider it, the board consider it. Now, Brian did suggest, it's probably true, that they may weight their decision on the areas that this person vacated where who they represented. I'm drawing a blank. I don't remember
Which position is of its school district board or special purpose district here?
We'll get that and just send it out to you for an information part before your meeting next week. But you do have the opportunity to submit the names.
Is there any significance to this address, MUD 36? The letter is addressed to MUD 36.
No, I think every MUD got one. We probably just pulled out one that was as a sample.
I think that takes care of that. We are going to move to closed session to discuss personnel matter. So if we could vacate the room, please.